We are nothing sacred. We are nothing sacred. We are nothing sacred.
With Maxwell Silverhammer.
We are nothing sacred. With cruise control. We are nothing sacred.
Oh, yes, bitches. Welcome. This is the Nothing Sacred interview with Scotty Schettler. I'm Maxwell Silverhammer. Cruise Control could not join me tonight, so I'm going to be flying solo. And so Scotty Schettler, for those who don't know, was a bookmaker for many years. He also took over the Stardust after the mob had sort of moved out of there. We could talk about that as well. And he's got quite the story. He's also the author of the book, We Were Wise Guys and Didn't Know It. Scotty, welcome to the show.
Okay, good. Glad to be here, Max. Seems like fun. It's going to be fun.
Well, I got to give you this disclaimer, okay? I'm a native Las Vegan.
Yeah.
But I know jack shit about the gambling industry, about the casino industry. So I may ask
further,
questions.
You're further ahead. You're ahead of the game already. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So originally you're from Pennsylvania, and when did you start this whole bookmaking thing? How'd you even get into something like that?
Well, I was in Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh area, Youngstown. Gambling was part of the DNA. I mean, everybody gambled. Grandmothers played the numbers. They had regular bar boot games, dice games, casinos. Sports books were a big deal, and I just grew up with it. And when I came to Las Vegas, when I was 27 years old, my wife and I moved here. That was in 1968, and I was already. All they had to do was plug me in. I mean, there's nothing they could teach me. I knew as much as they did, so they just had to plug me in and let me go. There was no breaking in, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
So had your name like sort of followed you here a little bit? Like people knew you? Like, oh, we know this guy.
No,
okay.
No. When I came here, I didn't know a soul. Nobody. I had one name, Nicky Costanza, who owned a cab company. It's the only name I had. And I didn't know anybody, nobody. I was, my wife and I we just had enough guts to come out here.
So talk about, like, because you have an interesting story about how you got your first job and all that. Talk about that a little bit.
Oh, okay. Like I said, in 68, my wife and I come out here, and I didn't know nobody. It was in August, hottest time of the year. And I didn't have a job. I had like $18 to my name. And I had one name, and he sent me up, Nicky. He sent me up to the Strip to see Jasper Special at the Tower of Pizza. In the movie Casino, that was they called it the Leaning Tower, but at that time it was called the Tower of Pizza. And he was a mobbed up guy. He was with the Gambinos from New York, and I walked into the tower. It was 1:00 on Sunday afternoon. It wasn't open yet. And hot as hell, but I had to walk because I didn't have enough money for a bus or a cab. So I walked in, and Jasper was behind the cashier counting the money, of course. And he had his shirt buttoned up. He always had his shirt buttoned up, and he had granny glasses. And he looked over his granny glasses and looked at me. He says, "Can I help you?" I says, "Yeah, Nicky sent me, little Nicky." And he says, "You might be able to give me a job." And he says, "You want a job? You want to work?" I says, "Yeah." He says, "Well, go back in the back, get a jacket on, and go to work. The place is closed." And I said, "Well, what do I do?" He says, "I don't care what you do, just do something." Yeah, wow. Square business. And I was there for like about a year and a half. And that's how I got my first job. But the Tower of Pizza was in the movie Casino. It was called the Leaning Tower. So that's it. Yeah.
Man. So how did you go from the Leaning Tower, as it were,
Yeah.
to the casino business?
Well, after about a year and a half at the tower, I got tired of it, busting tables and stuff. And I said, "Jasper, I want to get in the bar business. I want to be a bartender." He says, "Okay." So he at that time you had to be in the union. You couldn't get a job without being in the union, bartenders union. So he took me one afternoon down to the bartenders union hall to see Jack Stafford, the president. And Jasper had a lot of juice, people. He had a lot of juice around town. And we walked in and it's met Jack, and Jack gave me a job right away with no union card or anything. President of the union. He was
Wow.
he gave me a job right away. So that's how I started in the bar business. From there, I went to at that time it was called the International. From the little corner bar I was working at, I went to the International. Now it's what is it now? The Westgate. So and that's how I got into bar business.
So that was the casino.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, so it's the casino bar at the Westgate.
Oh, big hotel. Yeah, Elvis was there, and big hotel. Yeah,
so that's the. I think that was the one. It used to be called the Old Hilton. I think it was on Maryland Parkway.
That's it. That's
okay.
It was they opened up. It was the International, and then it was the Hilton. Now it's the Westgate. Yeah,
this is fascinating.
Yeah.
So then you somehow ended up at this Churchill Downs. I don't even know that casino.
Man.
I'm 40. I'll be 49 in like a week, so I don't remember that one.
You're a baby. I'm 82, so
wow.
Yeah. Okay. So Churchill, at that time, there was no sports books in casinos. No, it was all walk-in storefront sports books. There was only 8 of them scattered around town, and they were just little holes in the wall, red carpet joints. And Churchill Downs was like the cathedral of all of them. Churchill Downs was known all over the country. That's the head bookmaker was Bob Martin. He was the king of bookmakers, a real gentleman, the king of bookmakers. Really knew his stuff. So I got a job there in what was it, 1973. I got a job there, and I stayed there for like 5 years. So it was an old fashioned joint. There was like one TV, 127-inch TV. The boards, the odds boards were chalk. You wrote on chalk every day and then erased it at night. It was just an old fashioned, would have made a good movie. But that's where I started. Yeah.
Wow. So you're just over there, and they put the odds on the boards. People place bets. And obviously with the bookie thing, because obviously now you're working in a casino. So are you placing people's bets for them?
It wasn't a casino. It was a storefront book. I mean, you weren't allowed to have a book in a casino at that time. Not until 76. The first one was Union Plaza downtown. But I was a ticket writer, wrote tickets. And we did it by hand. There was no computers. We wrote tickets by hand, and you had to know what you're doing. We had to know the odds, what time the game started. This was all in our head. And you had to be able to figure odds. You had to be able to do it in your head, and transfer it to a ticket written by hand. Today, it's just like working at McDonald's. Customer walks in, give me number 8, and you push a button, and that's it.
Right.
But back then, we had to know what we were doing. So, anyways, yeah. Go ahead.
So people are. I'm just kind of thinking about how this is working. So people are walking up, they're placing their bets, they're doing their thing. Did you ever have anybody who didn't pay?
No, it was all cash. There's no credit.
It wasn't like, okay, hey man, if you win this one, I have a
no. There's no credit. The only credit there was back in those days, of course, there was a book on the side. There was the regular book that the gaming board counted the money, but then there was also a book on the side where we counted the money. So in that book, you could have credit, but that wasn't for the public. That was just for certain customers. But that's and everybody that was in there went in to bet. Today, you walk into a sports book, you might go in to look at the pretty cocktail waitresses. You might want a free drink. You might want to watch one of the 45 TVs or whatever. Back then, the only reason you went into a book was to make a bet. Now it's like entertainment,
Right. A hangout spot, sort of.
Yeah, yeah, but everybody had the same idea. Everybody was either trying to rob each other or rob the bookmaker. It was all, it was all, it was all, sports betting oriented. There was no tourists in there.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
So people were serious when they're coming, basically.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's that's wild. So then how did you end up at the Stardust?
Well, I went from Churchill to a place called the Royal Casino, and that was in might have been 78 or 79, and there was a guy, Joe Slyman, from Cleveland, big bookmaker, just had the balls of an elephant. He'd take any kind of bet that you wanted, and it was just a little joint, and oh, what a place. Anyways, he would take bets as much as you wanted, 20,000, 30, 40, 60, whatever you wanted to bet, he would take it. Wouldn't even blink an eye. So funny, this place, you talk about a hole in the wall, a red carpet joint. He had the casino. He rented the casino out, not the hotel, but the casino. And at nighttime, the sports book, there was a counter there with boards, blackboards, in the back. And at nighttime, we put a curtain in front of the sports book, and there was a stage. Turned the chairs around. It was a burlesque joint. And then in the morning, turned the chairs back around, lifted the curtain up, and it was a sports book. Yeah.
So,
Really?
so people actually came in and performed at night.
Oh, yeah, there was a burlesque show at night. The book
Wow.
doubled as a burlesque show. Yeah.
So the book would close down at a certain point, and then they would.
Oh, yeah. When there's no more games, you just close up, and then you turn the chairs around to face the other way. There was a stage, and the girls would be there, and it was a burlesque joint. And then
Wow.
and then when it was done, we put the curtain over the burlesque show, lifted the curtain up in the sports book, and now it's a sports book.
You guys had like a stage set, basically.
Yeah, it was a room with dual purpose. Part of it was a burlesque. Part of it was a burlesque show. On the other side of the room was a sports book. But the room wasn't very big, So.
And what's so crazy is you're saying the hotel was separate from the casino back then?
Yeah, he rented they had a small hotel, but he rented the casino. He didn't operate the rooms. He just rented the casino. He had a couple craft tables, quite a few blackjack tables, slot machines, and the sports book.
And that was his whole thing. So you were working over there for a while, obviously.
Yeah,
and then
a couple years. Yeah.
Okay. And then with the Stardust, how did that come about?
Well, from there, I went back to Pennsylvania for about 3 or 4 months and couldn't stand it, so I come back, and I got a job in Reno. I opened up a book in Reno. I opened up the Royal Casino where I was at with the burlesque show. I did that. I was the on the ground floor. I designed the whole thing and opened it up. Anyways,
oh, wow.
I went to Reno and opened a book up there for Warren Nelson, and it was the Club Calneva in Reno. So I was there for a couple years, and then from there I come back to Vegas and went to the Stardust.
What happened to that place, the Club Calneva that you opened?
Oh, it's still there.
Oh,
it's still there. It's good. In Reno, it's good. It's the biggest slot joint at that time. It was the number one slot machine joint in Nevada, the whole state. I mean, Warren was a genius. He knew how to operate a casino, and the book is still there. Yeah. So,
man, that's wild. So, and it's still going by the same name, or have they changed it?
Oh no, it's still the same. There's two Calnevas. One's in Reno. It's called the Calneva, and the one in Tahoe. There's one in Tahoe called the Calneva, CAL-NEVA for California, Nevada.
Nevada. Oh, okay.
Calneva. So, and the one in Reno was called the Club Calneva. One was Calneva, one was a Club Calneva. So the one in Tahoe was the state line ran right through it. So you know where this is going. So
yeah, it's bordering on illegal.
yeah, it depends what what part of the casino you're in. So they would, yeah, you'd be like dancing, and the cops would come in, you dance over the other side of the floor. Yeah, true story. Yeah.
Wow.
So, anyways, yeah,
man.
So
That's wild. And then you came back here. You obviously ended up at the Stardust. Now, you say the mob was gone by that time. So you didn't really rub elbows with any of these guys we saw, like when we think of the movie Casino.
No, they were still there. They weren't in charge of the Stardust. The Stardust was built by the mob in the, I think, in the 50s, early 50s, with Chicago money, Kansas City money. But eventually the gaming board, Lefty Rosenthal was there, and he played in the movie. He played what was his De Niro's part? What was that?
What was De Niro was there was De Niro, then there was Joe Pesci.
Joe Pesci played the part of Tony Spilotro. All the Vegas people know about Tony Spilotro.
Yeah,
and that's who Pesci played. What part he played. And De Niro played Silver or whatever it was. Anyways, he played the part of Lefty Rosenthal, who was the boss of the Stardust. And they took Lefty's license away, so Lefty left.
He's gone.
Yeah, he went to California. Now he's in Florida. Well, he's dead now, but he went to Florida. And I moved in with a group that was approved by the gaming board to manage it. We were just managers, and they hired me to run the sports book. So
was that Boyd Gaming?
Yeah, it was Boyd Gaming, and Boyd's weren't really strip type places. They were like the cowboy joints on the Boulder Highway, and they weren't used to the action on the strip. I mean, it was way over their head, and they were lucky to have me. Like the first year, I did I did 140 million the first year in the book, and which is not a big deal, I don't think. But anyways, to them it was. And the year before, they only did 70 million. And they says, "Oh, look what Scotty did, man! He went from 70 million to 140." I said, "Oh, you stupid asses!" I said, "You just counted all the money. That's all,
Right?
Dummies. None. You got first count. None of it went out the back door. Right. I didn't do anything. I was just honest. Right. So yeah. So I stayed there for 8 years, but the mob was still present. The mob was still present. They booked. We took off a lot. I took off a lot of their money. They bet with us, and we were averaging about 400,000 a day, which is not a big deal. But back then it was. This was in. I went in there in 83. So the mob wasn't booking it, but they were betting. Believe it or not, they were betting. They would lay off money there. You could walk in and make a bet. Okay.
Right.
Whatever it was, we would take it, So I was dealing with some awful smart people, mob money, but we were paying taxes on it, writing tickets and paying taxes on it. So there was nothing illegal about it. It just took a lot of balls to book their bets,
Right.
We weren't doing anything wrong, but they were still there. Like you mentioned Pesci. That guy, Tony Spilotro, he bet a lot. He bet with us a lot. Maybe sometimes those guys will bet maybe 100,000 a day, because they had nothing to do with their money. You could only buy so many Cadillacs, and
right.
I mean, what can you do with all the money they had? So they just bet it.
Wow. And maybe win some of it back in certain cases.
It didn't matter to them. They wanted the action,
Right.
They had a guy, he would come in, Fast Eddie. He's dead now, but most of the people I'm talking about are dead. If they were still alive, I wouldn't be mentioning their names. So
Right.
Yeah. Anyways, Fast Eddie, he'd come in, he'd say, well, he'd run to the phone, and they tell him bet Notre Dame. So he'd come in. I want Notre Dame. And I said, well, we're overloaded on Notre Dame, Eddie. We can't take any more money on that side. He said, well, then give me the other side. Just if they were playing Southern Cal, he said, well, then give me Southern Cal. Didn't matter who they bet. They just wanted to go ahead.
I was going to say, so he bet on the opposing team is what he do.
That's once in a while, yeah, but not always.
Right.
Yeah.
That's wild. So,
yeah.
So these guys actually did well, it's funny, two things with Tony Spilotro. One is a friend of mine went to school with his son, Vince. So,
yeah, Vince. Yeah.
Oh, you knew Vince, huh?
Well, I know of him.
Or knew of him. He was a kid then, obviously, at that time.
Was it his brother, Vince, or his son? It might have been his brother.
I thought, because the friend of mine told me it was Vince Spilotro, which was Tony's son that he was in school with.
I think that was his brother. He could have. I don't know, but I didn't know Tony had any kids. But I know he had brothers, John and Vince. Ed, was it Ed? Maybe it was his kid. I don't know. It could be.
I'll have to verify that, but I'm pretty positive.
That's a long time ago. Yeah, a long time ago.
And then, of course, I remember hearing on the radio, I mean, I was only like 9 at the time, but they kept talking about this Tony Spilotro, and, they found his car and all kinds of other wild stuff. And there was some pretty shady shit going on. But I guess, obviously, that was totally disconnected from you guys. He just came in your guys' place to place bets. Right?
He didn't come in. He wasn't allowed in there. He was blackballed from all the casinos. He was in the black book. They had a black book, the gaming board, and if you were in the black book at that time, there was only like 20 some people in it. You could not gamble in Las Vegas. You could not go in a casino. So Tony had what was it called, the Gold Rush jewelry shop, and it was just the front to do business, Right. He would send runners in. They called them runners. He would send runners in to bet. And funny thing, when I was at Churchill, I got to know Tony pretty good. He would bet with us at Churchill, and he would call up for scores. He would want to know scores, and we had an old UPI machine, a ticker tape, and it would click with the scores, chug away and make a lot of racket. And he would get me on the phone. He'd ask for me, and he would keep me on the phone. And you can't hang up on Tony. I mean, you just don't do it.
Right.
So he would keep me and make idle chit chat. And when he'd hear the ticker tape clunking away, he'd say, "What's that score?" Then you have to give him the score. And he'd keep me on here for an hour, just giving him scores. Like I was his own personal scorekeeper. But you can't hang. You don't hang up on Tony Spilotro. But yeah,
that's interesting. Well, you had mentioned there was an interview I heard, and you were talking about. There was something with phones where phones weren't allowed in the sports book, and then you guys went and installed some phones in like a security room or something. What was the deal with
that? We had phones to take bets, and that was legal. But nobody in a casino could have a phone. Today, everybody carries an iPhone in their pocket, but in those times, you could not have a phone. Even the pit, they have phones in the pit. Mm-hmm. And they had to be where you could not see the sports boards, the odds. They were so afraid that somebody was going to call the odds around the country. And the Stardust odds went all over the country. We were famous for that. We set the odds for the whole country. Anyways, I looked in you could not have a phone. You couldn't sit in there and your phone rings. They 86 you had to get out. And the reason was they didn't want anybody looking at the board and relaying the numbers,
calling you back and saying, "Hey, this is what it's going to be." So then you place that proper bet where you're going to win.
Yeah. You couldn't have phones. So anyways, I got the bright idea. I had a lot of ideas. There was a room across from the sports book where the porters kept their mops and all that kind of stuff. So I could just about do whatever I want in that casino. I had a lot of juice. I could do just about whatever I want because of Warren Nelson. He had a couple percentage points in it. Anyways, I talked them into we had 5 phones on the wall that was facing the sports book, but you couldn't see it. It was in a room. It was in like a closet. So we put these phones in there, and you could not see the board. You could not see the boards, and you could not call. The only way you could call is a 702 number. That's the Las Vegas. What do you call it? Their number. Yeah. Anything other than 702 didn't work. No calls could come in. You could only call out. Okay. So we got it. Oh, it just drove the gaming board nuts. They just went crazy because we weren't doing anything wrong. I just figured out a way to beat them. So we just drove the gaming board nuts. Anyways, so that's the way it was. We had a little guy, Abner. He appointed himself as the janitor of that room, and he would come in and he would come in and erase all the numbers that were written on the walls, phone numbers, and if a tourist happened to stumble in, he'd chase him out.
Right.
Oh, but outside there was a bank of payphones. It cost you a quarter. Bank of payphones, and the telephone company told us they were the busiest phones in the country. There was a whole bank of them out there, 7 of them. They were the absolute busiest phones in the country. But you couldn't see the boards. You had to go inside, write the odds down, come back outside and call. But you could not see the boards, the odds boards. That was the whole key to the whole thing.
What's interesting, as a casino though, wouldn't you not want that though? Because now they're taking your guys' money, right?
What's that, Max?
So in other words, you're taking. Obviously, they're trying to make their bet work for them as the person betting. So as the casino, why would you want that?
No, we did more business. We did like a quarter of the business on the entire strip, and the reason was I booked the way we did back east, strictly booking, take money and move the number. Today they want to handicap players. Well, this guy won yesterday, so let's don't take any bets from him today. Or yesterday we lost, so today we're gonna lower the limits. Today they micromanage. We didn't do that. Win or lose, every morning at 8 o'clock we opened up just like a bank every morning, 8 o'clock. Right. And we wanted all the business we could get. We didn't care where the money came from. It was just like a big salad. You mix it up, and you pay the winners with the losers' money, and you keep the rest. So, right. So we encouraged smart money. We encouraged the wise guys. We encouraged the smartest gamblers in the country to come in and make their bets. We encouraged that because we wanted their business. We weren't playing faces.
So the idea was to keep the person coming back to your casino because they felt like, well, I win there every time.
Absolutely. When you get up in the morning in Las Vegas, this is then, not now.
Oh no.
So you don't say, I wonder who has this game. I wonder this and that. You don't have to wonder. You say you just get in your car and you go to Stardust because if anybody will take your bet, we will. That's win or lose. So and another thing I had, you talk about people leaving their money there. I put safety deposit boxes in the cashier cage. So now if a guy has too much money, he can leave it. He doesn't want to get robbed when he goes outside the door. So now you can leave your money in the safety deposit box. But to get it, you got to come back the next morning.
Right. So you guys acted as a bank, sort of.
Yeah. So
wow.
So guys would go home at night and eat, but they'd leave their money with us and come back in the next day and bet it again. So it's just we had all kinds of things to keep their money there.
That's amazing. It's different than today's corporate model where it's about let's see how much money we can take from them.
No, I never worked for a corporation, not even the Boyds. They owned the casino, they managed the casino, but I actually was working basically on my own, So so I never worked for anybody that wasn't half smart. The only people I worked for bookmakers, you know.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So they were trying to sort of eventually. What point did they start to get? Like we need to get this guy out of here. This isn't good.
Yeah.
Start looking at
Well,
you.
I was there for like 8 years, and I just drove them nuts. I went through like 6 different general managers. I outlasted them all. You know,
Wow.
There were 6 different general managers. In the last group I worked for, they would do anything for me. Whatever I wanted to do, they would do it. And they just knew that I was honest, and they were going to get first count, and I knew what I was doing, and they just let me do it. And no matter what it is, if I wanted to change the parking lot, I could do it. No matter what I wanted to do, I could do it. So eventually the Boyds, I mean, the gaming board wasn't happy about me because I was taking all this sharp money. You know, guys from New York would call, and they'd have a guy in Las Vegas, and they'd call him, and he would bet for them back in New York. You know what I mean? It was actually mob money, but we were paying taxes on it. I mean, we wrote taxes, but we wrote tickets and paid taxes. So I don't know what their problem was, but
right.
But anyways, yeah. So the Boyds weren't happy about me. I just drove them nuts because, like I said, they were a cowboy joint, and they just weren't used to strip business. So they says, well, we got to get rid of this guy. So they says, we're going to have a big investigation and try and get something on him. They sent me home. I stayed home for 2 weeks. I had 80 some employees working for me. They interviewed. When I say interview, they harassed. They interviewed all 82 of them, trying to get something on me, and they could not a damn thing. There's not one employee I had that knocked me. They all talked about, you know, I might not have had. I might have been a little rough around the edges, but I was a good boss, and I knew what I was doing, and I was fair with them and fair with everybody. They couldn't get anything on me. So I come back. Yeah, I come back to work, and they says, well, you can come back to work, but blah, blah, blah. And I says, well, you know what? I says, if I'm not welcome here, I just might as well leave. So they cut me a very small severance check, and I left. That was in 91. So I was there for like 8 years. I handled over $250 million, you know.
Wow.
Cash.
It's amazing.
They got every penny of it. I didn't keep one penny for myself. So that's it.
So it's not like you left here a rich man or anything like that, huh?
No, when I came to Vegas, I had nothing, and I left with nothing. So that's it.
Kind of worked out. You know, let's go back to the phones real quick. There was something you were talking about at one point where some people they'd rig them to where you kind of touched on a little bit to where they could speak to people in other states. You know, because you said it had to be a 702 number that you were calling.
Yeah. So say a guy's in New York, and he would say rent one of those small storage units, you know, like they have like a little 10 by whatever it is, small storage unit, put a phone in there, a transfer, and he would call that phone, and it would transfer. It would transfer to ours. So it would call into us, and it had a 702 area code. So,
right. So it had a 702, so you could take the number.
Yeah.
You could take the call.
He's calling from New York, but he's calling a storage unit, and it's transferring the phone. The phone's just sitting there in the storage unit. So there's nobody even in the storage unit. So the phone transfers to us, and that's it.
This is like three-way calling, basically.
Yeah.
Kind of sort of.
Yeah. High tech at that time, you know. So
wow.
They do anything, you know.
Right. So, well, let's talk about this Bill Brennan guy. Who obviously took a bunch of money. That was after you left, but you knew him.
Yeah, I hired him. Bill was a nice kid. I hired him. He was from Philadelphia, and I hired mostly people from back east. If you were west of the Mississippi, you had a tough time getting a job working for me. I only hired guys east of the Mississippi, unless you're from Chicago, east of the Mississippi, because they were just a little bit smarter when it came to bookmaking, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, really, I'm serious. So anyway, so I hired Brendan. Nice kid, really nice, polite kid, quiet. Uh, he was single. He wasn't married. It wasn't nightlife or none of that. Just a good kid. So he worked for me for the longest time, and really a good employee. And he got hooked up with this guy. His last name was, I forget what his last name was. Anyways, this guy, Brendan, wanted to be a supervisor, but I wouldn't make him a supervisor because he was partners with this guy. Okay.
Okay.
So this guy influenced them. Okay, and it turned him into like he didn't like us. He didn't like us anymore. I wasn't there at the time, but he turned against us. Maybe if I was still there, he wouldn't have done this, but because he liked me, But anyways, that's what happened. And Brendan, like I told his dumbbells upstairs, the bosses, I said, you're in big trouble with this cage. I said, somebody's gonna. I says, in the middle of the night, I says, we got $500,000 there. Somebody's going to come in with a gun and just stick the place up. There's no security guard there. There's nothing. So the dumbbells, they built a bars inside the cage instead of outside. They built them in. They built them inside. So they locked the cashier in the cage.
Right. Right. But the person outside is good.
Yeah, he don't know the difference. Yeah. So the cashier's locked in a cage. Anyways, that's how smart these people were. So anyways, I told him, I said, you're gonna have a lot of trouble some night with this bank you got down here sitting in the 3 o'clock in the morning sitting there, but they didn't listen to me. So that they got what they deserved as far as I'm concerned,
But Brennan didn't take. I mean, he didn't come in with a gun and stick the place up. He just
no.
Right?
Good for him. He wasn't. No. It was a white collar crime. He just took the money and walked out the door. He had $500,000, and nobody watching him. He just took it and walked out the door. Simple. And it wasn't a big deal. I mean, it wasn't. Didn't take much planning. He had. I counted up. I had the police report, and I counted up. There was $508,000 in cash that the different writers deposited with him. He was supposed to take it up to the cage.
Yeah, instead he took it out the door.
Yeah, instead of turning right, he turned left. So
there he is, and he's gone. And he never he disappeared. Like nobody knows where he is now, right?
Well, he disappeared, and for the longest time, the rumor was that this guy that he partnered with probably, nobody knows for sure, probably killed him and took the money.
Oh,
that was the rumor. But it turned out that Bill is still alive. In fact, I talked to him on the internet. And
shit.
Yeah, he's still alive. He's in Boston. Statute of limitations is long gone. He has nothing to worry about. The FBI, it's a cold case file, and they couldn't care less. It's like, what, 20, 30, 40 years old.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah, and he's surfaced again. He's working at a hotel there, and I have a picture of him with his hotel gear on and his badge and all that kind of stuff. But he's still alive. And
did he ever tell you like his secret? Like, this is what I did?
No. Oh, I know what he did. He just took the money and left.
Right. But I mean, he didn't say, well, then I hid out in Mexico for a few months and then I did this. Like, he didn't give you a laid out plan, I guess.
No. He, as far as I know, he bought a house in Massachusetts. He bought a house in Boston and just lived he wasn't a rowdy guy. He just lived a nice life and paid off his house, and statute of limitations is up. So he's got nothing to worry about.
Wow.
Unless he can rob this latest casino he's working for. I don't know.
Right. And he's still working in a casino.
Well, he's working in a hotel. I don't know if it's a casino or what, but he's working in a hotel, But one day I got a phone call from a kid that used to work for me. He lives in Seattle now, and he says, Brendan just called me. And I says, what? So I said, I didn't believe me. he says, yeah, he's living in, in Massachusetts, blah, 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 working. And I said, okay. And then pretty soon I got his email, and I emailed him, and he emailed back and says, yep, it's me. And
Wow.
and he says, I'll be in touch with you, but he never got back to me. But he's alive. He's alive and kicking, and I got a current picture of him, and that's
Boy,
it.
he's around. That is so wild. So what did you do after the was life after the Stardust and after Las Vegas? You left Vegas completely, or
Well,
what?
no. I worked for two or three different people. I opened up another couple books and worked for small time places, employers, single employers that weren't corporate. And I opened up, and then finally in 2010 my daughter married a kid from Minnesota. He was stationed at Nellis, and she married him, and he was from Minnesota. So they made a deal: if he stayed around till she graduated UNLV, then they'd move to Minnesota. So they moved to Minnesota, and she got very sick. She got progressive MS. She's wheelchair bound.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So my wife and I, we left Las Vegas in 2010 and moved to Minnesota to help her and her family out. So that's how I ended up in this godforsaken place.
I was wondering how you went from Vegas to like somewhere in Minnesota.
Yeah. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't even fly over this damn state, man. This is the piss. If my favorite saying is, if the world needed an enema, they'd stick a syringe in Minnesota. So
that's great.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's a good quote.
They'd stick the syringe right in Minnesota. So that's what I think of. That's what I think of this place. So, anyways.
So you worked, was one of the sports books Leroy's by chance?
Oh yeah, Leroy's.
Leroy's sports book.
What a joint that was. That was one of the original downtown joints. I think it used to be called the Saratoga. I'm not sure. Anyway,
so.
Vic Salerno, him and I are very good friends. He just got inducted into the Hall of Fame like I was. So anyways, he was a dentist, believe it or not, in Malibu or some damn place in California. It was a high profile dentist. He went to Marquette, graduated Marquette Dental School, and had a very prosperous dental business in California, high scale. And he married a girl. What was her name? Janice, whatever her name was. Her dad owned Leroy's. His name is Leroy. He owned Leroy's.
Oh, he's the Leroy. Okay.
Yeah, he's the Leroy. He married Leroy's daughter. So he gave up his dental practice and moved to Las Vegas. Knew nothing about bookmaking. So he learned bookmaking and opened up Leroy's. Just a scumbag downtown joint. But if you had a full set of teeth, you were out of place in this place. So
I remember, two things. I had a friend that worked there for a little bit.
What was his name?
Tim Mulvihill. This was in like the early 2000s, I think.
Yeah, I don't think I was familiar with him. Anyways, yeah.
He's a pretty low key dude. He just kind of came and got his paycheck and did his thing and wrote tickets and stuff.
Yeah. So anyways, Vic, this is another Stardust story. Vic and a guy named Jim Feist, who printed sports schedules, and a guy from India, Pakistan, named Javed Buttar. Three guys. They each invested $5,000, and they come up with a company called CBS, Computer Sports Book, Computer Bookmaking System, CBS.
Okay.
So they had the very first computer system other than the Boyd Group. They owned the First National Bank in Las Vegas, and they had a computer system. It was called NABS, Nevada Automated Betting System, which was a piece of junk. It was really slow. So anyways, Vic and Javed and Feist come up with their own system. And I was good friends with all three of them. So the Stardust wanted to put NABS, Boyd Group Sportsbook system, in the Stardust. I says, you can't do that. You'll kill the business. I says, the thing is too slow. You can't do that. So they hired a kid named Mark Alden to convince me to
take it on.
Yeah, trying to convince me to use NABs. Well, after about a week, I convinced Mark that CBS was the way to go. So I went upstairs and I talked them into scrapping their own system that they had. They had it for nothing, and buying Leroy's system, CBS. For at this time, it was cheap, $750,000. I put my job in the line. They put CBS in there, and the rest is history. It worked fine, and the rest is history. So that was CBS started it. Now CBS ended up with William Hill. Leroy's had over 100 different sports books throughout the state, all hooked up with this computer system. And I started the whole damn thing. Anyways,
that's pretty well, because you talk of how you didn't need computers back when you first started. It was all, you guys wrote up all by hand, and you knew what you were doing.
There's no computers. No, I mean, people didn't even have them at home. No.
Right. So now this was like new, and so begrudgingly they drag you kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
And you said, all right, if we got to have a computer, let's use the CBS one, not this NAB one, right?
Right. Exactly.
Wow.
And they could have had the NAB NABs. They could have had that for free. But I talked them into buying Leroy's system. So,
wow.
And Job, his office was upstairs at Leroy's, if you could imagine that.
Oh,
so, yeah. So he didn't have a palatial office in a tower somewhere. His office was upstairs in Leroy's.
He's right there at Leroy's.
Yeah. So that was that. And Vic just got inducted into the Sports Betting Hall of Fame. So
wow.
Anyways, yeah.
So he's a big deal.
Well, he's very successful. Yeah.
Successful. Well, anybody in the Hall of Fame is a big deal.
I was in the Hall of Fame. I was in the first class. I got inducted in there. The very first class they had 5 living and 5 dead. I was one of the living. So
where do they even hold these halls of fame? Like, how do you even know about that? Does somebody call you and say, hey, we want to induct you? How does this work?
Yeah, that's how it works. Circa Casino downtown in Las Vegas. Circa, they have a big, huge monster sports book, 3 stories high. It's actually a sports book with a hotel built around it. It's just a monster book. And they put a Hall of Fame in there. They cut out a place and built a Hall of Fame. And they had 10 inductees, and 5 living and 5 dead, first class. And that's the way they do it now. Every year, they've only had 2 classes, 5 living and 5 dead. So I was in the first class with the living.
The living. Well, it's good to be amongst the living. Yeah, better.
So I told him, I says, I never bought green bananas because I didn't know if I was going to live. But I says, I can buy green bananas now too. So, yeah.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. And then what made you decide to write the book, and when did you write the book?
Oh man, that book. After I left the Boyds, and I was fed up with the casinos. I just sat down. I mean, I'm not an author. I'm no good with English, as you can very well tell by my conversation.
I don't know. I enjoy listening to you talk, man. But
well, that's the way the book is. That's the way the book is. The book is just me talking. So I just reminisced about Las Vegas and a bunch of the characters around Las Vegas and a bunch of the stories and a bunch of the scams and the robberies and the different things that went on in Las Vegas. I just sat down and started writing. And it's self-published. I mean, I never give it to a publisher. I self-published it. It more than paid for itself. So
I'm surprised you didn't make an audio book, because obviously it's like listening to you talk. How come you didn't do an audio book?
I'm thinking about starting a podcast. I mean,
you should.
there's enough old material with old characters that you could just get a captive audience and just go on and on. What they should do is start a series like on TV,
like the what's that one they used to do? Oh God, The Sopranos kind of thing.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, every week you come out with a new issue, and you could have a new character. You could never run out of characters. You could look at my book. There's probably 50 characters in there, and you could have a different one every week. Oh, that would be great. People would love it.
That's awesome. Well, that's what's interesting about listening to you talk is you have a lot of stories and you know a lot of names and you have quite the history. And me being from Vegas, it's fascinating because I'm going, wow, I wonder, I'm going to look some of these places up when we're done to see if they're still around.
No, they're all gone.
Everybody's gone.
Churchill's bulldozed, Stardust is bulldozed.
Yeah, I know Stardust is gone.
Vegas is gone. Yeah.
Oh yeah, those guys are gone. But I was thinking like you'd mentioned Circa and
Well, Circa's still there, but that's new. Circa had nothing to do with those days. Circa is new. It's a new casino. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sure Leroy's is long gone.
Oh, there's no more standalone places. The gaming board made a rule that you have to have 200 rooms to open up a sports book, a hotel with 200 rooms. So that put all those little mom and pop books out of business. So there's no more storefront books. They're all gone.
Yep, that's corporate America coming in here again.
Yep, that's what it is.
Destroying shit.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, this has been quite fascinating. Where can people get your book?
Through Amazon. It's cheap. It only costs $14. It's cheap to get it through Amazon. It's listed on Amazon. What do you do, Max, besides this?
Well, I'll tell you off the air.
Okay.
Now I sound like you.
Okay. Yeah. Same people. Yeah. Okay.
Well, not like what you were doing, but a little different. But I don't put it out publicly. I will tell you when we're done. But okay, so they can pretty much get it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, any of those places.
No, not Barnes and Noble. It's just Amazon.
Just Amazon. Okay.
Yeah.
You had a website at one time. What happened?
Well, we had a website. It was called wiseguys.com. My son and I have that domain name, Wise Guys, which is worth a lot of money. And we had a website with we put odds on there and injury reports and stuff like that. But my son funded it. He's a big he's a very, very big successful businessman in Las Vegas. Commercial real estate. He built Mountain's Edge. You ever heard of Mountain's Edge?
Oh, no shit. Yeah, it's a development. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he built that. 14,000 homes. He did that.
That's him.
That's him. He built that. That's one of the smaller projects. That was like $500 million. But he just built a place out in North Las Vegas, or Henderson, North Las Vegas, out that way, off of 15. He had 10 warehouses. He just sold it for $187 million. But he just made a deal with the city of Henderson. He got I got the thing here. It's 822 acres he's developing out in Henderson. It's going to be bigger than Summerlin.
Oh,
he's developing it. It's a monster project.
So it's not even done yet. It's still going.
No, he hasn't even turned the shovel to dirt yet. He just got the okay. He's been dickering with the city of Henderson for all these years. He just got the okay, and he just started. He hired the engineers and all this kind of stuff. So it's going to be. I'm looking for the paper
for the name of the actual thing to look out for if you're in the city of Henderson. I'm sure nobody can afford. Anybody listening to this probably can't afford a home in this place once it's developed. But let's hear it.
I can't find where the heck is it? I can't find it, Max.
Well.
Anyways, his company is called Mosaic Red. You could Google it. Mosaic Red. MOSIACRED. One word. MosaicRed.com. And it's the biggest project ever in Henderson. It's just a monster project. 822 acres he's developing. So
that's wild. So you guys so he's successful. I guess he's learned from his dad. right?
Well,
Yeah.
he's a cancer survivor. He had cancer, and he survived cancer like 30 years ago. And when he started in the real estate, he was making like $750 an hour, and with no benefits. And now look what.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Can I ask what kind of cancer he had, or
He had Ewing sarcoma, and he had a hemipelvectomy, which they take your hip out.
I was just going to say, it sounds like really it's in the, wow, that's a rare ass cancer, right?
It was very rare at that time. There was very few cases in the world, and he had some very good doctors. Had a doctor from Boston that come out he had it done at UCLA and Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles. They took care of him, and he had the very best doctors in the world. And that's another story. Oscar Goodman and I were good friends.
Ah, yes. Former mayor.
Yeah. Oscar and I were very good friends. So anyways, when Vince got diagnosed with cancer, we were in UCLA, and they diagnosed him Ewing sarcoma, and they said, well, you got to take this out. And they misdiagnosed him in Vegas. This cancer had like a 6-month head start. It's as big as a pie plate, the tumor. So my wife and I are sitting out in the lounge, and the insurance says, well, we can't take your insurance here in California. It's only good in Nevada. I said, what are you talking about? I said, you got the doctors in the world to cure this thing. You got the kid with cancer. I said, well, we'll make payments on it. They said, well, each bag of chemo costs like $20,000. I said, I don't care. So anyways,
I mean, I don't mean to laugh, but that's amazing.
Yeah, my wife and I are devastated because they're not going to do anything. So I says, well, let me call Oscar and see what he says. So I called Oscar and told him the story, that they wouldn't treat him. And pretty soon this girl came running out of the office. I'll never forget her name, Nadine, real nice kid, social worker. And she says, everything's okay. You can have, we're gonna do the operation, and here's a private phone number if you need anything. So Oscar told him, he says, look, if you don't take care of this kid, I'm gonna own your hotel, and you're gonna be the first one I fire. So he put the fear of God in him, and they never charged us 5 cents. So he was in UCLA for 4 months. Yeah. So
wow.
During the North Korea earthquake, remember that?
Oh yeah. That was in the late 80s, I think.
Yeah. What's that, Mike?
I think it was in the late 80s, if I remember right.
Yeah, it was. And he was in UCLA at that time. Yeah. So anyways, that's
quite the story, man.
Yeah,
Oscar pulled some strings for you.
Yeah. So he went from there, from being in a deathbed, they give him a 10% chance of living. If he went from there to building these big monster properties in Las Vegas.
It's
awesome, quite a story. Man.
That's a success story. He could be a guest on the podcast.
Yeah, he's very, very, very low key, very, very generous. He's a philanthropist. He donates a lot of money. He wrote a check for $1 million to the American, I think it was some kind of cancer place in Vegas. He was the president of the Candle Lighters. He's
I
very
wonder
generous.
if it was called the happy. What was that place?
The
Happy Place or the something place. There was a place that was dedicated to that. Oh shit, I can't remember the name of it now. I've been there a couple times just to speak with some of the people that work there. For the work I do, which we'll talk about off the air.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
But anything else? Any other stuff you like to add?
Oh man, I could talk forever. I got some stories. Oh man, really funny stuff. Really funny.
You want to hit him with one real quick?
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do. Whatever you want to throw out there.
There was this kid that wrote horse tickets for us, race tickets, horses. His name was Calvin, a big black kid, just the nicest, softest kid you could ever want to meet. And one day this lady came in, she was from San Diego, And she come up to Kelvin. He was in the horse book. And she come up. She says, "If I give you money, can you bet it for me on football games?" And of course, Kelvin says, "Yeah." So she gave Kelvin 20,000. So Kelvin goes in the back and gets some kind of a receipt. Comes back and writes this lady a receipt for 20,000, which is useless.
So he pocketed the money, is what you're saying?
Huh? Yeah, he put the money in his pocket. Yeah, the lady, she don't know any difference. So Calvin pockets the money.
Oh,
so all he has to do, she says, "Well, I'll call you every Friday night. You tell me what games you bet." And then, so she starts calling him on Friday nights. He's giving her these games that he's betting, and they're winning.
So she's making money.
Yeah, he's trying to lose, and he can't lose. He could. Before this lady came in, he couldn't pick a winner if it was right in front of him. So he's trying to lose, and he's winning. So this lady's getting a big bankroll built up. So she comes to Las Vegas to collect. Of course, Calvin disappeared, and she goes upstairs, and I forget what they did, but somehow they resolved it.
Yeah.
Probably, so.
Well, I'm just thinking nowadays how people are nuts, and boy, if they don't get their money, they come back with a gun or they.
Oh yeah, it's a different world now. Yeah, it's a different world.
Yeah. That's it's dangerous now. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
You couldn't do something like that now.
It really is. Yeah.
Wow. Well, this has been fun. I've enjoyed listening to you talk and tell your stories and all that type of stuff. I wish your book was an audio book, man. I think you need to really think about just sit down, record it, put it up on Audible, and there you go.
I'm going to do something like that. Yeah, I'm going to do something like that. Instead of sitting here in the freezing cold, I'm going to do something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe make some kind of podcast or something,
There you go. Channel that energy, You still got plenty of good stuff to talk about.
Oh, I got a lot left. Yeah, I'm still healthy and I run every day, and so
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Scott Schettler, everybody, and this has been the Nothing Sacred interview. Hang on, like I said, hang on with me till till after 2 because I want to talk to you there. But okay. This is Scott Schettler. This is the Nothing Sacred interview with Scott Schettler. I am Maxwell Silverhammer, and that's the story there, bitches. See ya.
We are nothing sacred. We are nothing sacred. We are nothing sacred.
With Maxwell Silverhammer.
We are nothing sacred. With cruise control. We are nothing sacred.